I'm Annette McCoy. It's always an absolute pleasure to be here speaking with people wherever you happen to be around this wonderful globe. Today, Marney Perna joins me, and I'm so excited because technology is wonderful, Marney. Here you are, sitting in the car, able to speak with our audience wherever they happen to be across the world.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me once again.
Well, it's always a joy. I delight in the fun that we share on air. I mean, we've been doing it for so many years now, and it's so much easier and better on via Facebook and live presentations rather than simply on air like we were all of those years ago.
Many years ago, yeah. We've learned to adapt, Annette. We've done really well.
Yeah, that's true. So thanks to technology and the powers that be, that we're able to join people today and talk about the seasons and how they affect us. I know I have my personal favourites, and I enjoy 4 seasons where I live in Melbourne. You're slightly different, Marnie, because you don't have the 4 seasons in Queensland.
No, at the moment we seem to have a wet season and then another wet season. So lots of rain up our way at the moment. But no, we don't get the extremes in all parts of Queensland. So if you go out west a little bit, you still get the really cold. But in Brisbane, where I live, you certainly don't get those. I've never seen snow here, so, or sleet even for that matter.
Right. See, I delight the autumn leaves, the changing leaves, and then how I can shuffle through them in the parks. It delights me.
Yeah, we really don't get that. I mean, you have your deciduous trees that do let them go, but we certainly don't have that distinct autumn-winter tone. Yeah.
So I'm wondering how our audience feel, because obviously some people do have the different seasons. And of course, Janet Hickox and I are always talking about, because Janet's in America, her seasons are the opposite to ours. So when we've got autumn or fall, they're going into spring. And likewise, when they have summer, we're heading into winter.
Yeah, and look, different seasons can affect different people different ways too. I personally find that your favourite season is often around your birthday month.
Mm-hmm.
So like if you're born in, like I'm born in September, so I love spring. So spring's my favourite time because it's just my favourite time. It is. My mum was born in May, so she loves the winter. So is one of your favourite times around your birth, like within your birth time?
Well, see, I haven't thought of it that way, but you're right, because my birthday is in spring. I like spring and autumn because where I live, they're cooler nights and beautiful warm days without the extremes of summer that we can have.
Exactly, yeah. So you'll often find people will attach their energy sits in where the month they were born. So that often is where their favourite time is. And it also, as you say, it depends on whether people like the heat or the cold too. So some people that really don't like the heat will they'll melt in extreme summer situations. So they really look forward to the colder months, or a cooler month anyhow, let's put it that way.
Well, I always find it interesting though, sometimes we might hear ourselves complaining about the weather, and yet it's like, it's too hot, or yet in winter where it's too cold. And so I always try and offset. If people make comments like that, I'll say, how fortunate that we have appropriate clothing, appropriate heating or cooling. We really are so fortunate where we are. Or we might live near water, so we can go and have a dip and cool off.
Yeah, it all comes down to, and we've spoken about this so often, it comes down to your perspective and your capacity to be resilient. You know, what can you do? You can't change the weather. That's what we have to realise. The weather is one of those external influences or stressors that we don't have a lot of control over. We have control over how we cope with what's going on. So if you're someone who doesn't like the extreme heat and you live in a place where there is extreme heat, what can you do about that to make life more bearable or more comfortable? So make sure you have appropriate clothing, make sure you can get into somewhere that either has got a breeze coming through or you've got a fan, or if you're lucky enough to have air conditioning, you've got air conditioning. So what can you do to change your environment that where you have control over? Because there is no point whatsoever trying to change the weather.
That's true. Or bemoan it. A friend recently said, oh, it's getting cooler. The mornings are quite brisk. Oh, it's lovely to get into, snuggle into a coat. And I thought, yes, you know, and her vibration was so much lighter by saying that rather than, oh, it's getting cold. Yeah, absolutely. Get your favourite snuggly blanket out, or, you know, put your favourite sheets on that make you, when you get into them, you go, oh, this is so nice. It's like going into a cuddly koala bear sort of thing. So you have to, there's enough stress in life without adding to it with stuff that you've got no control over. So take ownership of things you can change or do something about. Just let the other be mindful without being fearful. And that's another thing at the moment. We need to be mindful about our environment, mindful about our situation or the health things that are going on without being fearful about it. You know, what can you put in place that makes it more comfortable or better for you or safer for you? And if you can actually address some of those things, you can take the worry of it out of your head, because your brain will just keep sending you these messages of fear, and it doesn't stop until you address it. So identify the fear. What am I being fearful of? Come up with the reason you're fearful. You know, and if it's about the cold and you haven't got enough clothes, well, what can I do about it? Can I reach out? Can I ask someone that, you know, that will go to an op shop or something where they've got some snuggly jumpers that aren't very expensive, and buy those. You know, and make sure you can warm yourself some way. Or what food is warming for you? You know, you're able to stock up on some soups, which are more warming than a salad. So, you know, if you've got this thing going in your head and it's constant tap, 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 it's saying to you there's danger, there's a problem here. So identify what it is. What is the challenge going on that keeps giving you these signals? Because once you've addressed it, once you've said, okay, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, or write down what you're worried about, your brain says, oh, thank God you finally listened. I can take that away. I can let that one go. I don't have to keep knocking on that door. So you do need to listen to what your body is saying to you. Absolutely. And as you well know, because as a kinesiologist, you're working with bodies all the time. Absolutely. I'm saying to it, what's your challenge, mate? And it's not always up front. It's not always obvious. Sometimes it is obvious. And sometimes we're using the language that helps us identify what we're being fearful of as well. What you were saying there, the lady that was looking forward to getting into warm jumpers, as opposed to the one that's fearful of the cold. Well, there's no point fearing the cold. The cold is something you've got no control over. So what can you do to help yourself? It always sounds simple. The thing is that we complicate it big time. Well, why it's complicated and often is because it's not just one thing happening. Usually it's a kaleidoscope of things going on, and it's just one element of the whole lot. But just remember that even everything think of them all as ingredients. So the chaos going on in your life at the moment could be filled with all these different ingredients or different aspects. So each aspect has its own little identity. So what are the aspects of what's going on? Is there something you can do about something? Because that's what about sometimes it's okay. The small steps can create a big ripple of change.
They don't always have to be big steps. So what is something that's manageable and small enough that you can do to help you fix that little element or change that little element? Because remember, every change you make gives you a changed outcome.
Yes, yes. And again, I like the way you say small steps, Marnie, because sometimes a problem can appear huge, and it's really important, isn't it, to break it down and to be and to be so grateful, to acknowledge the small steps that we do make.
I think we sometimes think, you know, you made the comment, things seem so simple. We forget that simple works. You know, complicated, it's overwhelming. Think of complicated as being like an electrical circuit. All right, so all of your challenges going on are like an electrical circuit, and on that circuit you've got a kettle and you've got a toaster. Now, independently, both of them are working really, really well. But this day, you've decided to put them on the same pair of power points. So you've got the same conduit happening there. So, and you've decided you want a cup of tea and a piece of toast at the same time, and it blows a fuse because it overwhelms the circuit. Whereas if you took one plug out and put it on another side, it might work well again because they're independent. And your brain's the same. You've got your left and your right hemisphere of your brain. They're working on different aspects of life at the same time. You've got your logical, sequential side of things and your artistic side. Now, sometimes they work on the same circuit, and other times they don't. All right. So what is causing that meltdown or that blowout in what's going on? And your thoughts are what your body can be unwell or disharmonized as well, but it's your head that you need to have some clarity with. You need to get a bit of space in there to come up with solutions to see what you can do about your body.
Our heads can be filled with mind.
Friend or foe. Yeah.
And so simply to stop and to take a deep breath and say, okay, I'm feeling uptight, I'm feeling overwhelmed. What is it? Rather than pushing, it just simply taking, and again, it's simple to say, but to take that moment to reflect and go, okay, what's pushing my buttons? Who's pushing my buttons?
Yeah. And again, you know, business, think of the business we talk about. You've got your business, you've got my business, you've got universal business. So if what is pushing your button is something you've got control over, you have capacity to create some form of change. If what's flicking your buttons is another person's business, you can influence it, but you can't change it. It's not your business to change it. So if it's universal business, again, how can you be resilient about it? You know, so ask those questions even. Is this my business? Is this my stuff that's in my head? Or is it someone else's? If it's someone else's, just take a breath and even make something like, you know, say, is it my business? And if it's not, put your hand on your heart and then push it away from you. So you're giving yourself space to breathe. You know, and they seem so simple and they seem so, how can that make a difference? But energy is heavy. Right? You can have light energy, you can have heavy energy. So if something is causing your heart to be compounded or to be sat on, lift it off, push it away from you so you've got some air in between. It allows you to take that breath. And taking a breath is the first step to feeling better. And then smile as you do it. You know, it's uplifting. Smiling, your body knows what a smile means. It means happy hormones. So let some happy hormones come in as you're taking that breath. Is it going to do you any harm? Absolutely not.
Breathing is life, isn't it? Without breath, there is no life. And sometimes, you know, we get so caught up in life that we forget that what is automatic can also be controlled by ourselves. We can slow our breathing down. We can become very mindful of our breath.
Absolutely. And remember, the act of breathing engages both the spine and the brain. So what happens is as you breathe, the cerebral fluid goes up the spine and it gets to the head and gets dispersed into the brain, and it has kind of pumping action. So without breath, you haven't even got, you know, the clean fluid going up and down your spine. Can you hear the rain?
I'm not able to.
Pelting down. Absolutely pelting down outside my car.
Really? So you have had so much rain, haven't you?
I know. Yep. And we're learning to let go of that, because our shed flooded once again last night or yesterday. So we went, oh, what number's that? So it's happened so often, it's become an occurrence that you go, meh, what can you do about it? Absolutely nothing. Just, you know, we look at drains, and drains again are not our responsibility in so much as our property has been, the water's coming from other property. So it's not just our responsibility. It's harder for us to control the flow because it's not coming just on our land. So we're having to, you know, maybe work with the neighbours to see what they can do, because it's not impacting them coming across their land and coming into ours. But then ours is flowing into the next door neighbours. So we've got this like concertina flow, like Niagara Falls at the moment. So anyhow, and that plays into your emotions as well, because you get frustrated and stopping some of the positive energy of the move because it's been so frustrating.
Being aware of our emotions is so important. Acknowledging them, so that once we acknowledge them, we can do something about it. Whereas if we're in denial and we simply just keep going, but our language, our body language tells us that something's very wrong here.
Yeah, and like if you don't acknowledge your true feeling, your body doesn't understand. It's saying, but I'm giving you this message, and you're telling me it's not that message, so it's confused as well. So you really do need to be honest about how you're feeling, but don't be the feeling. So express it without being it, if that makes sense. That's a favourite word of yours, Annette, is be the change, be something. So don't be the negative emotion. You can, how do I explain that better? So a child that is autistic or lives with autism can either be labelled as that child is autistic, so they be the autism, or they can live with autism. Okay, so one is not defining them as a whole personality, right? But it's explaining why they might have challenges in life, but it's not who they are. They are still that person, but that person lives with a condition. So it's the same with your emotions. If your emotions are strong, you're living with that emotion, but you don't have to be it. Because eventually you will pay, your body will find a body system that needs to pay the debt back for being in that moment.
Now, what fascinates me with the work of kinesiologists such as yourself, I can come to you and I can say, oh, I'm feeling fine. And you can do a test on my arm and go, your body's telling you something different.
Yeah, but remember, you can still feel fine and have other challenges going on. So one of the bonuses of kinesiology is we work with goals. So in the clear, without a goal in hand, I'll get a different muscle response for different questions. Right? So, you know, but once you put a goal in, it's kind of like honing in on a specific thing that's going on, and I'll get a different response to those questions by the arm or the leg or whatever one I'm using, or my fingers, whatever. So remember, it's very got much goal assessed. So you open it in the clear, you might be fine, but you may be dealing with a particular life challenge, right? And when that life challenge is on the screen, so the computer tab that you've got open at the time, you will have a different, there will be things going on that you can do something about.
Yes.
Does that make sense to you?
Yes. So if people are watching us for the first time, they might be hearing that word kinesiology for the first time. And you are a practitioner, and with the wonders of technology, yes, you can do one-on-ones physically, but you can also do one-on-ones via Zoom, via whatever.
Phone. Yep, doesn't matter. Yeah, so I'm doing quite a lot of phone appointments lately, because not everyone has the technology at home, and sometimes they don't want to use it, so we're doing it via phone.
Right.
Which, you know,
so people can reach out to you via your website, www.kinique.com. So Kinique, it's KINIQUE.com. Yes. And so would you like to tell us a little more about what you can offer?
I help people deal with stresses in their life. So they call me a stress buster. So like the Ghostbuster, who you're going to call when you're overly stressed, you call a kinesiologist. Because kinesiologists can help you to find out where in your body you're holding some of that stress triggers and solutions for you to move forward. Right? They don't do the work. They identify or highlight where some things can change and what you can do about it. And we use tools. So I use essential oils. I use shell essences. I use bush flower remedies. I use whatever the universe says is in your best interest. So it's you know, go to my website, have a look at my homepage. It explains a little bit more about it. But I help people identify stress triggers in their life that's holding them back from various aspects of life. And it could be physical, it could be mental, it could be spiritual. It's always emotional. Doesn't matter. The emotions come into it every single time.
Yeah.
There's no stress that hasn't got an emotional trigger.
Mm.
So.
Yes, and our body's very good at giving us messages. The thing is, quite often we will ignore them or fail to see them, full stop.
Yeah. We often see them in hindsight. You'll often be going along and you haven't fully understood some of the little, because sometimes they're unique little messages that don't make a lot of sense to you at the time, but in hindsight they may. You might think, oh, is that what was going on? So remember, hindsight is a great teacher, because it says to you, okay, well, this is what it was all about. You kind of know that now because you go, oh, God, I knew that was happening. But this makes you more aware of those triggers or those messages. Because remember, we're guided all the time. We've got signposts and guides happening all the time, whether that be physical or spiritual. Our guides and angels are there helping us all the time. And they sometimes forget, as we do, that they live in angel time and we live in human time. So there are times when we need them to work in human time. And we can ask that of them. We can sort of say, hey, I need help now at the moment because something's going on in my life. Does it mean that they'll come up with all the solutions? No, they'll give you assistance for you to follow your path.
Well, and we can, since we know when we're in the right space, shall I say, because life flows, and we can also see signs along the way, the same way as if I take the wrong path, there are usually plenty of signs to say, hey, have a look.
Yeah. And what we were talking about initially, this subject topic you've put on, the same applies to seasons. So we can have different seasons in our life that are all out of sync. So your mind and your physical might be in tune, but your spiritual or your energetic energy might be in a different season altogether. And the seasons all have different aspects of them. Like, you know, you've got your spring, summer, autumn, and winter in life as well as you have in your energy field. So, you know, in the wood or the spring. So they're all connected to the 5 elements of the Chinese philosophy as well. So spring is connected to wood, which is your grounding element. Summer is connected to fire. Autumn is connected to metal. Winter is your water. So winter being water is your kidney and your kidney and bladder area. And then the balance of the whole thing is the earth element. So when it's all in balance, things are going on well. We're being fed by what we need to be nurtured. Okay, like the fruits of the spirit or success comes in when you're in balance.
Right.
But you can have different parts of your life in different elements, and they're not in flow, which will, you know, help you understand sometimes why you feel you're in that, you know, flux, or in that you're not grounded. You've got one foot on one side of the earth and one on the other. So what can you do about things like that?
Now, Marnie, we have Carol joining us. And
hello, Carol.
Thank you, Carol, for joining us. And she's saying, has a week gone by already?
Yeah.
Life does have a way of moving very swiftly.
Absolutely. So how's your seasons, Carol?
Yes, I wonder which is your favourite, or which is your... Yeah, I like to concentrate on the favourites, and then to reflect on, okay, so what is it about a particular season that maybe I'm not so fussed about?
Yeah.
I do.
So remember, if go on.
It's I do I feel very grateful for the fact that no matter what the season, I am comfortable, because I have the facilities that enable me to be comfortable regardless. And Carol loves them all. That's fabulous. Good on you.
Yeah.
Easily pleased.
You will have people that get put out of sync energetically with some of the more extreme seasons. So windy. So we have something called negative ions, right? And negative ions are actually helpful to health. Okay, although they've got the word negative in there. So negative ions are the energy you get when you're walking through nature, right? Where you've got that nice flowing stream, or the energy you get when the waves are pounding on the beach front. They're releasing all these negative ions. And you have a similar energy happening before a big storm. Okay, but just before the storm strikes, you've got a lot of negative ions being let out by the thunder and lightning and stuff like that. But that can also jar people, because it's loud, it's scary, and they're not feeling in flow. Okay, so sometimes it'll affect something called your polarity. So your polarity is your ability to be even keeled, right? Polarity is like the magnet, you know. So with the magnets, you've got your side that attracts and your side that repels. So when you've got two you're trying to put two magnets together. If you've got both of them in the same polarity, they won't attract. They'll push each other away. But if you turn one over, suddenly it goes click. So your body's a bit like that as well. So you have polarity. So sometimes when you're out of polarity, you're repelling stuff that you actually need to bring forward into your life, but you need to bring it forward a different way. So if you can imagine that your brain is not gelling together, it's actually pushing each other aside. What can you do about that? So a simple thing you can do is just cross your hands, cross your arms, and you know the points we often talk about just below, I'll just show you on here, just below the collarbone here, those points. So your collarbone comes down there, and you've got points just underneath it. When polarity is out, sometimes you can use those points to reset polarity. But how you have to do it, you have to cross your hands and use your opposite thumb on your opposite. So your right hand would be pushing on your left point, and your left hand would be pushing on your right point. You don't have to push hard, but you just give it a little jiggle, right, and take a breath. And that can help to reset the polarity of your brain and your energy of your body.
Okay. Another simple what's the word? Strategy. Thank you, Marnie.
Yeah.
I've learned something from you, because ions, I thought negative ions, like when we have rain, not as much as you do, but I know, especially if we haven't had rain for a while, it flushes out all the negativity everywhere. Like a good rain is wonderful for clearing the atmosphere.
Yeah, absolutely. But it releases all those negative ions.
Right.
Before it comes down, right? So just in healing, a negative ion is what you look for. It's helpful to healing and health. Okay, so examples of things that release negative ions: the Himalayan salt crystal lamps, or the Himalayan lamps that put negative ions, right? And as I said, walking in nature is good, especially a river or a brook, kind of thing. As it flows, it releases it. But also too, as you're walking on nature, you're releasing negative ions as well. Where you don't get negative ions, so would you know what Coronation Drive was? So Coronation Drive is a really big, thick road coming into Brisbane from the eastern suburbs, right?
Oh,
It gets very, very heavy with traffic. Now, you can imagine in the middle of summer, it's stinking hot. The bitumen's melting, there's car fumes, there's heat, there's rage, there's all this other stuff going on. You do not get negative ions in that situation. All right.
Really?
So it's the difference between, because it's so heavy, it's so thick, it's disempowering, it's disconnecting, right? So it doesn't make you feel good. It makes you feel frustrated because you're in the traffic and it's hot and it's, it's just, and your red light comes on or something like that. So you don't get the negative ions walking down Coronation Drive in peak hour.
Okay.
You do get it either walking on the beach or walking in nature. They're your negative ions. That's what you need.
See, my concept of negative ions is completely
you
incorrect.
Feel it back to front. But yeah, exactly. But just whoever's listening, Google the health benefits of negative ions.
All right.
Okay. Yeah.
Certainly will.
Yeah, they're positive to health.
Yes, obviously. And yes, I was up the wrong path.
Well, no, it's the word. So think of negative, but if you think of it as a subtraction mark rather than the word negative.
Right. Oh, Carol.
Hopefully I'm still here. Yep, sorry. Someone was trying to ring me.
No. It's all good. Carol was saying that summer is her favourite, then autumn, because she's a Pisces. Winter lasts.
Oh, okay.
But winter lasts because she loves making soups.
Oh, there you go, yes.
So
sorry about that background noise. Obviously, I didn't hang up properly. It's all good. Now, there's a shell essence. You know how I talk about shells all the time? Somewhere here. I've lost it. Oh, my God, what have I done? Anyhow, there's a shell essence that sometimes helps with negative ions. And that is the rainbow delight. Okay, before I was leaving, I thought I'll just see which one talks to me. And rainbow delight, when I can find the page. Now, rainbow delight was one of the shell essences that wasn't actually made from the energy of the shell. It was actually made from the energy of seeing a rainbow across Loch Ness. When the lady who does these shell things was out, she was thinking she was going to visit she was visiting the Barks, or she was visiting one of the other places that does the essences, and as she was going past Loch Ness, there was a rainbow behind Loch Ness. So the picture for Rainbow Delight is this lovely rainbow in the background. And the rainbow light says, the essence was created out of light and love for those who fear the uncertainty of planetary flow. So with seasons, your planetary flow can be a bit out of sync. All right. And it comes from the principle that God has sown the planets and the earth with light. So fear, panic, constant worrying and feeling down can be helped by this rainbow delight. So there's some of the reasons you might want to take it. Even when the fear is not acknowledged with what we're talking about, it can show up in the body. Right? It will eventually manifest. So through the rainbow comes love. Through the rainbow comes tears. Through the rainbow to renew from our own spiritual fears. So it's kind of like that real environmental or planetary help.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's lovely, Marnie. And I noticed this morning Sue Norman is over in New Zealand doing a creative activity, and she said that before she left Adelaide, as she prepared for the trip, every morning she saw a rainbow, and every day that she has been in New Zealand thus far on this project, she has seen a rainbow, and she has seen that as a very positive sign.
Positive sign, yeah. So it's one of her guideposts. It's one of her things that's saying things are good when this is happening. But don't let your guides and messages become a talisman that if you don't have it, you can't do something for the day. All right. So remember that energetically, it's still there, even if you're not seeing it. So energetically, it's still giving you that input and that information. Right. So many people will anchor onto something, and it's the something that it's the tangible something that they think is what's giving it to them. It's the intangible vibrational energy that's been your guide.
Right.
So, you know, it's the same with a gemstone. You know how sometimes we have a favorite gemstone and oh my God, if we haven't got that gemstone with us, we feel, what's going to happen, you know, because I haven't got that protection with me. Call the protection to you. What was the name of the gemstone? You know, what was it exactly? What did it feel like when you had it in your hand? If you looked at it in your palm of your hand, what does it look like? It's got its own energy imprint. It's not the physical thing always.
Right.
All right. Call the energy of that product or that thing to you as well.
Now, I'd like to thank Carol for her input this morning. She's saying that she used to have a little device that created negative ions.
Yep. Yep. So she agrees that negative ions are the beneficial thing for health. They help us, yeah. So it's not that it's not negative. It's just the minus ions, yeah.
Right.
It's a chemical or is it chemical? Yeah, chemical thing rather than a word thing.
Right. Yeah. I'm with you. Yes, as in the magnets. Yes, where you have the positive and the negative.
Yeah. See, magnets can be used to assist as well. You can often there's practitioners around that use magnets for healing, and they will have the magnets either with the negative or the positive polarity showing on the body for whatever reason. So someone might have too much positive energy, not so much negative and positive ions, but positive energy, which they need to release that a little bit and take some of it away because it's overpowering.
Well,
it's complicated sometimes, isn't
it? And we have to bring it back. Bring it back
to simple. What am I feeling like? Is it something to do with the weather? Oh, really? Again?
Yeah.
What can I do to change that? Can I turn on a light somewhere and bring the light in?
Well, isn't it interesting how we'll push the blame somewhere else rather than going, okay, what's pushing my buttons? It's not really the weather.
Yeah, but it's influencing you. It does influence you. It will influence people. They talk about the people that, you know, sometimes when their brain is wired so finely that things will really flick them. Like, you know, someone that's living in a schizophrenic kind of an energy field in their brain, that the electrical input in their brain, it's just got a really, really fine balance, and it doesn't take very much at all to flick it over, right? So you will often hear people say, oh, it's a full moon, so, you know, it's sending out the people are going stir crazy. Well, it's a physical thing that's happening. It's a tangible thing that's happening, and it causes that disharmony. So they need to be able to go, how can I shelter myself from some of that energy? Because people that live in that high energy field can be flicked very easily. You know, and certain people are affected very, very quickly by weather. And the tide, like the tide pulls out, the moon pulls out the tide. So if it can pull out the tide, you know, with the moon flow, imagine what it can do to your head sometimes. Well, we're not as heavy or as full on as the tide, and it can pull a tide out universally. How magic!
Pretty amazing, isn't it?
It's remarkable. It's unconceivable sometimes.
Yes. Well, life itself, when it quite often say overwhelms me when I think of how small we are individually in this amazing system that we live in. You know, there are galaxies and galaxies and galaxies, and we're one very small part. You know, the Earth is a very small part of one galaxy.
Absolutely. Now, just quickly, while I was sitting here, I was thinking something. You know, we need some things to be simple as we talk about. So we can use gemstones to help calm our energy. Okay, and I thought, what can I give people? Something that is easily and readily found. There's no point trying to send them looking for something that you can't find, so let's find something. So it's just saying here that amethyst. So amethyst is a very calming stone. All right, it helps you to feel stable and secure. It conducts a calm and peaceful energy. So how does that sound? It's amethyst is something you can use as a deflecting some of the electromagnetic radiation that sometimes affects people's energy fields as well, and their harmony. So if you're affected by electromagnetic radiation, like the stuff coming out of TVs and phones and things like that, sometimes buying a nice piece of chunky amethyst. So buy chunky amethyst. I don't mean the size of it, but I mean it's still got its crust on it. So with amethyst you can buy it, but it's got like the grey crust still on it, and it's got the amethyst crystals on the top of it. Get a piece of that and just get drawn to the piece. It doesn't matter how big it is. It's not about the size. It's about what you're drawn to and why you're drawn to it. So I find those crusty ones, you put them discreetly in different parts of the house, and they can help to settle that the planetary energy that's going on. Someone who's a bit scattered at night time, who can't relax enough to go to sleep at night, try putting a piece of thick quartz under your bed, under the bed where your head is, and seeing if that helps. And have a look behind your bed. Is your electrical power circuits there? Are they causing some of it? So put it in front of where the power point, not on the power point, but below the power point, to defray some of that energy coming through. It's going to work. Well, you'll only find out if you do it.
Yeah. We have so many things that can help us. The essences that you deal in, the essences that you create. You've just said the crystals as well. Wearing crystals can help.
Wearing the amethyst, if it's your heart that gets affected by planetary change or seasonal change, go and find a nice piece of jewelry that's got amethyst in it, and wear that, and have it hanging down low enough that it's on in between your breasts, in your heart area. But that's also your thymus area. So your thymus area is your immune response. As you get up and go, it's your capacity to do the old hitting yourself on the chest thing that the apes do to get their energy flowing. So wear that down there, because in that area it's protecting you. Seeing what else it's saying. It's definitely the stone for spirituality and contentment. It helps to protect from psychic energy as well. It's not the number one stone for psychic mismatch, but if you're having a lot of spiritual disharmony, amethyst can be very helpful for that as well. But the other one I would put with it is labradite. So labradite protects us from negative energy.
Okay. What is that one, Marnie?
Labradite. It's Labradite, I think is how you spell it.
Wow. That's a new one for me.
All right. Well, it's the stone. It's a very dark black kind of stone. But if I had to describe it to someone, it's like licorice. Right? And you know how licorice can have different colours to it, sort of thing. Well, the labradite has those different colours as well. And it brings forward strengths to share with the world, but it also helps to reduce anxiety and stress. But it's the stone that you go for psychic protection. Well, I believe it's the one that always shows up for me for that reason. It clears your aura and gives protection.
Fabulous. I'd like to welcome Chrissy, who has joined us. I've got no doubt that there are lots of people out there. It's simply that some people choose to say hello via the chat, and others simply watch or listen as they go about their business.
Absolutely. Has Chrissy got a question?
Well, Chrissy's commenting that her first crystal that she bought for herself is the amethyst. I must admit, I'm very drawn to amethyst. Yeah. And
so I have a lot what stone is that connected to? I think it's connected to August, is it? Amethyst is an August
Amethyst,
stone.
I thought it was December.
Could be.
I was given
It's not September
an
because that's
amethyst
sapphire.
ring by my husband when our firstborn was
Oh, okay. Yeah.
and he was a December baby, and I think that was the connection.
Oh, okay. Right. So again, your stone will have a bearing to your energy field.
Right.
As well. All right. So if you need to connect back to your month of birth, start with a crystal.
Well,
Find the
Chrissy's
crystal
saying
for your month of birth.
Okay, well, Chrissy's saying she's September. I could well be wrong. Maybe.
No, September is sapphire.
Okay. All right. I'm wondering whether I'm confusing amethyst, which I adore, and aquamarine.
Oh yeah. Is it not it may be a April aquamarine.
Oh, is it?
Anyhow, it really doesn't matter. You'll be drawn to the crystal that your energy needs now.
Right.
Okay. So if you can imagine your energy field is like this big circle, like a pie graph. Okay. And sometimes in that pie graph, you'll have a chunk that has it's missing. There's nothing there. So what is your body? Your body will be looking for and finding what will fill that piece that's missing. Now, sometimes it's a gemstone. Sometimes it's people. Sometimes it's color. Color has a big bearing on filling those gaps that we sometimes are feeling. All right. So with kinesiology, we'll identify a color that either causes a stress or there's not enough of it. So we find out where in our aura, our chakras, that energy is needed, and where can we put it, and what is the emotion that it's dealing with? Because colors have emotions that they're dealing with as well. So, are you needing to defray some of that energy, or are you needing to bring it in? I'll often make my clients, or suggest to them, I don't make them, I suggest to them that they might choose to buy themselves regularly a colourful bunch of flowers with certain colours and have them in the kitchen or in the lounge room where they're seeing them all together, because it might not be a colour that's in their house, but it's a colour that their energy field is missing. And it's not always about your favourite colour. Okay, so it's not about, this is my favourite colour, so I'm going to have everything in this colour. Sometimes we need the balance. So what colour do we need to balance ourselves with?
I love talking about colours, Marnie, because I'm aware of what colours I'm drawn to. When I think about, well, what am I going to wear today? A lot of the time it's because of a particular colour I'm drawn to for that day.
Yeah, because your body is in tune to knowing what it needs. Oh, I've lost you. Your picture's gone.
Now, Chrissy is asking, do crystals connect with the universe?
Absolutely. I've lost our picture.
You have. It might be time. It might be. Oh, here she comes again. It might be time to say thank you, thank you, thank you, Marnie. I really appreciate the fact that you have made it possible to be on air this morning, even though you had a very important task with your husband. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you to everybody who has joined us as well this morning. It's been a wonderful session as always. And so
sorry about that.
That's all right. I think it's time for us to go.
Oh, that's all right then. It just suddenly went all black. I went, no, what are you doing?
No, it's all fine.
Yeah. And tell Chrissy, yes, crystals do connect with the energy field and the universal bridge. So
yeah. So thank you, Marnie, as I was saying, and thank you everybody for joining us. We always have fun, no matter how we manage to do the show. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Annette.
Everybody have a fabulous, fabulous week. Be aware of how you are feeling and what can you do to change the situation for yourself. And then remember,
have a wonderful day.
Yes, have a wonderful day and spread the love. Thanks, everyone. Bye for now.